Often, things are not exactly as they seem. No one expected Tom Brady to be as good as he is at football. Tom Brady was a 6th round draft pick. Look to baseball, which we will be doing today in this video. The soon-to-be first ballot Hall of Famer, Albert Pujols, was drafted in the 13th round of the MLB draft. But sometimes, players are exactly who they are thought to be. Without playing a game in the MLB, Luis Robert signed a lucrative major league contract. But who is Luis Robert? In the Who Is series, I go through the backstories of up-and-coming collegiate and NFL players. I release videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Consider subscribing to the channel. Born on August 3rd, 1997, Luis Robert Moran was born in Ciego de Avila, Cuba. There is a lot of cloudy information about Luis Robert's family, but here's what we know. Spanish naming custom in Cuba has Luis's full name as Luis Robert Moran. At a young age, Robert was seemingly to be a stud in baseball. As a young man with a strong arm and great athleticism, he was directed to play the outfield. At the age of 16, Robert began to be recruited by the Cuban national team to play for them. During this time, he played in the Cuban National Series for his birthplace Ciego de Avila from 2013 to 2015. He was named to the All-Tournament 18U team in 2015. The Cuban National Series of CNS is the primary baseball league for Cuba. This league is a professional league, and there have not been many MLB players who have indeed played in this league at one point. Players such as Aroldis Chapman and other very famous Cuban players did not play in Cuba because Fidel Castro closed the island in 1961 to the MLB and other professional leagues. In recent years, this hasn't been a relevant hurdle to many Cuban-born players. They enter the MLB farm system as young as they are eligible. However, Luis Robert did not follow this path. He played in Cuba until he was almost 19 years old. In his final season of his Cuban professional career, he hit for a .401 average, 12 home runs, with 40 RBIs in only 53 games. After he turned 19 years old, Luis Roberts decided that it was time to move on. In November of 2016, Luis Robert decided that it was time to leave Cuba to pursue a career in the MLB. It took until the middle of 2017 to be declared an eligible free agent. But finally, in May of 2017, Luis was eligible. A week after fielding offers from the MLB teams, Robert signed a contract with the Chicago White Sox, fighting off the other interested teams such as the Houston Astros, San Diego Padres, Oakland Athletics, Cincinnati Reds, and St. Louis Cardinals. The White Sox won the bidding war for the outfielder, who was described by scouts as a freakish physical package. Once Luis Robert signed his contract with the Chicago White Sox, he was designated to the DSL White Sox, also known as the Dominican Summer League White Sox. As expected from being put in the lowest tier of the minor leagues, Luis Robert excelled during his time in the Dominican Summer League. He hit a .310 average in 28 games. He hit 3 home runs with 14 RBIs, stole 12 bases, and walked 22 times. This performance impressed the organization, and Luis Robert was catching the eyes of not just his team, but began to catch the eyes of other scouts. In the spring of 2018, Luis Robert was immediately called up from the DSL White Sox, and he made his debut with the White Sox in a spring training game. He flew through his time at Winston-Salem and Kannapolis. He was finally called up, a highly ranked and anticipated prospect, ranking number 28 in the MLB. Luis Robert certainly did not disappoint. His debut was one of the more memorable spring training games in the eyes of White Sox fans. Now, mind you, this was his 5th start in the 2018 spring training, but this was the game Luis Robert was on everyone's radar. In a back-and-forth matchup, Luis was right in the middle of action all game long. On a slide to second base early in the game, Robert seemed to slide in awkwardly. He seemed to shake it off and continued playing in the game. Luis Robert came up to bat in the 8th inning down 12-14 to the Cincinnati Reds. Luis Robert, with 2 outs, bases loaded, hit a go-ahead grand slam to eventually win the White Sox the game. Unfortunately, during the aforementioned awkward slide, Luis Robert tore a ligament in his thumb and had to miss the next 10 weeks, effectively ending his season short in 2018 despite a short return towards the end of the 2018 campaign. In 2019, Luis Robert was ready to make his return to the league. After only a year, Luis Robert was on the rise, finally ranking in the MLB.com's top 25 prospects. Robert had high expectations for his 2019 season. Starting his season back in the Single-A Winston-Salem, he played 19 games, picking up 34 hits and 75 at-bats, while scoring 21 runs, hitting 8 home runs, and driving in 24 RBIs. He quickly impressed the organization and was called up to the Double-A team in Birmingham. He spent a majority of his season in Birmingham playing in 56 games. He struggled at the beginning, but eventually picked it up with 71 hits and 226 at-bats while slashing another 8 home runs, driving in 29 runs, and stealing 21 bases. After impressing his club once again, he was promoted to the AAA affiliate of the White Sox in Charlotte. For Charlotte, in 47 games, Luis Robert showed his power, slashing 60 hits and 202 at-bats, while he managed to double his home run total in Double and Single A with 16 home runs. He made standout plays in the outfield, but ultimately found his power stroke as a designated hitter for the AAA squad. Once again, Luis Robert hit for an OPS of over 1,000. In his time in Single A, Double A, and Triple-A, Luis Robert hit .453, .314, and .297 respectively. After an impressive time in the minors, Luis Robert hit for a combined .312 batting average with 35 home runs and 123 RBIs. He impressed with 50 doubles, 15 triples, and stole 63 bases. Combining speed and power, Luis Robert impressed so much that the White Sox had an important decision to make. Now, typically a prospect from the major leagues will be kept in the minors until May so the club can get an extra 2 years of control of the player. However, Luis Robert was not going to be doing this. After being so impressed with Roberts the past couple of years, the White Sox organization decided not to wait and offered Luis Robert a contract. Without playing a single game in the major leagues, Luis Robert inked his 6-year, $50 million contract with Chicago. This contract includes club options in 2026 and 2027 at a value of a combined $88 million. Unlike another number one prospect like Ronald Acuna Jr., Robert did not have to forfeit his freedom in order to play in the big leagues. He is the number one prospect for the 2020 season that has unfortunately been shortened due to COVID-19 and may not happen. Roberts is a player to keep an eye on as a potential budding star in the league. As a potential budding star, there's a certain amount of expectations that come with that title. Immediately, Luis Robert is expected to take Eloy Jimenez's spot in the outfield and have Jimenez move into the designated hitter spot. He's expected to be their everyday outfielder and to be able to play multiple outfield positions. He's also expected to hit at least .270 and show a stroke of power in the big leagues. Luis Robert is going to be surrounded by talent in Chicago. He's expected to have protection in the lineup by Eloy Jimenez, Yoan Moncada, Edwin Encarnacion, Jose Abreu, and Yasmani Grandal, with pitcher Michael Kopech returning from injury and Dallas Keuchel signing to the White Sox. The White Sox, with their budding star, are a team to watch out for. If you like this video, check out my other videos in the Who Is series. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel.